Welcome to the Stamford Solid RSO Event Planning Workshop. This workshop is intended for Stamford Tier 2 RSO presidents and vice presidents. This workshop will provide an overview of the event planning process. In this workshop, we will review the event planning process, the event registration and space request form, event coordinator role as well as the RSO role and responsibilities, related policies, best practices and tips. Let's get started. As we start the year, we recommend that your group spend some time discussing the activities you want to set in motion. Once you have an idea or ideas ready, you can begin the process to implement them.
My group met, and we have some great ideas for the semester. We want a paint night, a carnival in the park, and a bus trip to NYC. You can make that happen, right?
That's great, but I think it's important for me to mention a few things. While the university and RSOs have a tight relationship, RSOs are legally separate entities from the university. What that means is that as an RSO leader, you are responsible for the activities that your organization engages in. RSO events are yours. You are responsible to take the lead and do the work to make them happen. The Stamford Student Activities staff is here to support and guide you in this process. We will help you create a plan for success. We will help you identify your risks, liabilities, and responsibilities as they relate to the event you hope to host. The center of today's conversation is risk management. Many policies and procedures are designed to address associated risks, with a goal to reduce exposure. As an RSO leader, you are responsible for the activities your group participates in. When thinking about risk, folks generally think about people getting hurt or sick. These are physical risks. Risks come in other forms too. Risk of damage to property, loss, poor management or misuse of funds are financial risks. The loss of trust and respect of your stakeholders are reputational risks. These are just a few examples, and the ones that most often come up for RSOs. As we continue this workshop, we will come back to these key concepts. Your RSO is responsible for the work of event planning. Student activities staff is here to support and guide you in this process. Through this, we aim to reduce physical, property, financial, and reputational risks with your events and activities. With your ideas generated, you are ready to begin the pre-event planning phase. This is a critical time to organize the foundational elements of your event. The foundation of your event is the date, space, budget, and content of your program. The content of your program may include a speaker, performer, or activity. You need these basic details confirmed before you can move on to the other components, such as the decorations or catering order. Completing the event registration and space request form online is a required step for all events and activities. This form will not only begin the process to reserve space on campus, but it will also notify Stamford Student Activities of your plan. The event registration form is intended for any event or activity you are planning as a group. This may include an event on campus, an activity or meeting for your group members only, and events or activities off campus. This form should be used to notify the Stamford Activities Office of anything you are doing. You can find this form online at studentactivities.stamford.uconn.edu/RSO-resources. Once we process the event registration, we will assign you an event coordinator. This is a staff person in Stamford Activities. You should plan to meet with them soon to review your idea and discuss the implementation steps. If your event is on campus, the event registration form will also be the first step in confirming use of the space. Please note that space is limited and may not be available. Submit requests early for prime dates and spaces. Space is not confirmed until all required steps are completed. There are many details to arrange. It is important to schedule a meeting with your event coordinator as soon as possible. In this meeting, you should come prepared with the details of your plan. They will help identify related policies and procedures that are required and potential risks. In the meeting with your event coordinator, you should come prepared with all the details of your idea. Expect to discuss your floor plan and foot flow of your event. In this conversation, you should begin to visualize how the event will happen. Where are participants sitting or standing? What are they doing there? Do we need chairs, tables, or supplies for this to happen, etc.? Event planning often is linked with other policies. For example, fire code, food safety, funding, IT and facilities setup, marketing. We are here to help you identify the related policies and procedures, required steps, and deadlines. While these are related to event planning, they are often coordinated by other departments at the university. After the meeting with your event coordinator, you should expect to have a list of tasks that need to be completed. Following up with these in a timely manner is critical to your success. Remember, this is your RSO's event and the responsibility of doing the work is on you. Communication is key. Following through with the task list swiftly will keep you on a path to success. Aim to complete items and respond to email within 2 or 3 business days. Failing to follow up or complete items in a timely manner can negatively impact your success. Many mission-critical timelines are determined outside of student activities. Event planning is a complex and unique process. It is difficult to summarize all of this into one checklist for all events. How about I use the examples you pitched earlier to illustrate some general steps and considerations? I will quickly summarize some of the major points that we might cover in our event planning meeting.
I think that would be very helpful. My group wants to do 3 events this semester. We want to kick off the semester with a carnival in the park. Right before midterms, we would like to have a paint night. And to end the semester, we want a trip to NYC.
Thank you. I would like to start with your most simple idea, the paint night. As I mentioned earlier during the event planning meeting, we will review the foot flow of the event. What is going on in the space? What needs do you have? Where are your supplies? Etc. With that information, we will draft the floor plan. I will enter this information in our system so that it can be reviewed and approved by the fire marshal. They will ensure that the setup does not violate fire code. With their approval, we will submit the floor plan to our facilities team along with a work order to ensure the space is set up properly. The facilities team needs a final setup 5 days prior to the event. The fire marshal review will take about 1 week to complete. That said, this must be finalized 2 weeks before your event. If the room you are assigned doesn't have tech equipment, we may need to submit a setup to the IT team. They need this 1 week in advance. Do you know how to use the equipment? We can arrange for a crash course if needed. I'm guessing you want to have food at this event? If that's the case, you will need to petition for a temporary food service permit through the Environmental Health and Safety Office. There is a short training and online form that must be completed at least 10 business days prior to the event. Your treasurer will likely be responsible for the purchase process. It's important to note that it will take about 2 weeks to get approval before purchases can be made. If we need to order supplies, they may take an additional week or more to arrive on campus. I would recommend starting this process at least 4 weeks in advance. Marketing is key for getting folks to show up to your event. To have flyers printed and posted around campus is a 3 to 4 day turnaround. You should aim to have flyers hung for at least 1 week prior to the event. Adding your event to the calendar and announcement to the weekly e-bulletin should happen as soon as your event is confirmed. Use your RSO social media to build interest. And don't forget to talk with your friends about your exciting event. Word-of-mouth advertising is a great way to generate buzz. The day of your event you will need helpers. Who will be volunteering to set up the event with you? How will the food be delivered and distributed? Who is taking attendance? Who is handing out the supplies? You should begin recruiting volunteers to assist you. I always recommend that the primary person running the event not be locked into one role. You may be pulled in another direction at any time. You should think about the timeline for the day. When does your event start? How long will it take to set up? When should your volunteers arrive? What time will you arrive? If there is a lot to set up, you may want to organize your supplies the day before.
You're right, it is a lot of work.
Yes, but it's worth the effort. With a good team, good organization, and good communication skills, you can get it done. Let's recap the timeline. You should begin the budget and purchasing process at least 4 weeks in advance. Draft your floor plan and send to the fire marshal for review 3 weeks in advance. Draft your marketing and submit your marketing request form 3 weeks in advance. Submit your temporary food service permit request 2 weeks in advance. Finalize your IT and facilities setup requests 1 week in advance. Finalize volunteer assignments 1 week in advance. Organize your supplies 1 day prior to the event. Walk through the event space to ensure it is set up properly 2 hours before the event is scheduled to begin. Finally, setup for the event starts 1 hour prior to the event start time.
What about our carnival idea? The plan is to have a huge event. We want to use the parking lot so that we can have live music, a food truck, and a bounce house. Oh, and we really want to bring our friends from other schools.
That's a super fun idea. While you can expect similar policy and processes to apply, there are a few significant details that make this event more complex and will require additional review and input from departments at the university. Let me highlight those. The proposed location in the parking lot is a challenge as parking is limited. The event would need approval from parking services to use the space. They may require a meeting before they will approve use of the space. While I love a good food truck, having one on campus becomes challenging. The fire marshal and environmental health and safety offices require on-site inspections before they may serve food. Given how far we are from the store's campus, this is challenging and we need them on board early. Additionally, purchasing rules direct that food trucks must be paid using a direct payment. This adds a few weeks onto the funding process. For the bounce house, I would recommend using one of the state-contracted vendors to expedite the purchasing process. The fire marshal may need to do an inspection before we can use it, and they always require a certificate of manufacturing from the vendor. Bounce houses can be tricky with our space. They must be secured to the ground with stakes or sandbags. The vendor will be able to let us know which option is appropriate, but we can't stake down on the asphalt. Inflatables also require power to inflate. If we don't have a power source nearby, we will need to rent generators. If we need one, you guessed it, the fire marshal will want more details and possibly an inspection. As for the musician, that is always a nice touch. It is important to remember that we can't sign contracts, and we will need to route the agreement through the purchasing department. Events with large, anticipated attendance that are open to the public or allow guests will generally need a review with UCPD. Depending on the nature of the event, they may require certain security measures to be put in place. Often these would be crowd control measures, bag checks, not allowing re-entry to the event, etc. Having your details organized will allow them to provide us with their feedback and recommendations early in the process. Should security or fire marshal recommendations not be completed on time, your event will likely be canceled. The financial steps for this event are quite extensive. I recommend a meeting with the Student Activities Coordinator to review your budget before submitting it. This will help ensure you have included everything. It should also be noted that this event is going to be very expensive. With a large number of non-students attending, you may need to consider an additional source of revenue. We can sell tickets online through the online marketplace. While this idea is more work and will take significantly more time, it is possible. Are you willing to put in the work? Will you follow up on all these details? You will need a strong and organized team working together. It is my recommendation that we plan this event for the spring semester, as it may take more than 12 weeks to get everything sorted out.
Given all that, I guess that sounds more realistic. I'll bring that feedback to my team. Certainly, the bus trip will be much easier to plan.
I'm sorry, but no. Bus trips can be quite stressful to plan. Transportation costs are extremely high, and so you will need to ensure full attendance. Often the purchasing steps for the venue or attraction you are visiting is more complicated. The university has an exclusive vendor for transportation. I would estimate that at least 8 weeks advance planning is needed just for the purchasing steps. To ensure a full bus, you will need to advertise your event well in advance and sell tickets to offset the cost. We can sell tickets online using the Stamford Activities Marketplace. The event coordination is more intense. You will need to verify everyone has paid for their ticket, has completed the participant waiver, and boarded the bus. Your organization will appoint a bus captain. This person must be trained by student activities so that they understand their role and responsibilities. As it is a lot to coordinate, we will provide a Stamford Activities ambassador to help. Depending on what you hope to do in NYC, you will need to communicate these details with your participants in advance and during the event. Where and when should they meet the bus? What is the plan when they arrive to NYC? What happens if they miss the bus?
Wow, I didn't realize how much work it was to have an event.
It is, but the effort is definitely worthwhile. We recognize that many of our student leaders have never planned an event like this before. Event planning is a skill, and the staff in student activities have been doing it for a long time. It is our goal to help you be successful. Bring your ideas to us in your solid leadership touch base, and we can begin to develop a plan for success. If something is going to be too difficult, we will try to work with you to reframe your idea to something you can manage. As we wrap up this workshop, I would like to leave you with a few final thoughts. Event planning is a unique and complex process. The staff in student activities is here to help you create a plan for success. It is important that you meet with your event coordinator and follow up on the required tasks in a timely manner. Ask questions if you need help. Space is available on a first-come, first-served basis, so I recommend submitting your event registration as soon as possible for all of your events. The policies set are to help you reduce your exposure to risk. Events on campus require compliance with policies before we will confirm your use of university space. Your RSO events are yours. You are responsible for your success. I appreciate your attention during this workshop. I know it contained a lot of information. However, we have only touched on some of the main points for event planning. Depending on your specific idea, there are many other things that may come into play. There are so many potential scenarios and policies we weren't able to cover in one workshop. It is so important to start this process early. Meet with your event coordinator. Read and review any information and resources shared. Follow up in a timely manner, and always ask questions if you aren't sure. If you have questions or would like to run an idea by us, please stop into room 202 and we are glad to assist you with this. I look forward to hearing your ideas and helping you make them a reality.